All right, hello guys, welcome to the test review. As you can see, I've already got the problems worked out here, so I'm just going to kind of talk through some of them and explain my reasoning as we look at them together. Hopefully this will help make the video a little bit shorter and, cut down on some of the excess explanations. So the first one here, I see I've got two sets of parallel lines, and then I have this transversal going through the middle. So what I looked at was I said, okay, I've got these pair of parallel lines going horizontally, and I'm going to look at this angle here between the transversals. So I see this 3x and this y plus 7, they're going to be congruent to each other. And then I also see here, I have this other set of parallel lines, the vertical ones. If I look at the transversal cutting them, I see between this blue parallel line and the transversal in the middle, it's 42. And then I go over here and I look at Z, again, between the blue parallel line and this transversal in the middle, I have Z. So those are alternate interior angles there, so they're going to be congruent. So right away, we know Z is 42. And we know this 3x is equal to this y plus 7. Additionally, if you look here in the corner, we see this is 90. Okay, and if you look over here, that means that these other ones are 90 because you have parallel lines and they're being cut by a transversal. Okay, and so this guy's 90, this guy's 90, this one down here is 90, and so are these. And since we know that this is 90 over here, I know this 3x plus 42 is equal to 90. And so then I solve that for x, which gives me 16. And so now that I know x is 16, I plug in over here, and I know that 3 times 16 is 48. That's y plus 7. So y ends up being 41. So again, main thing is recognizing here, you have to look at your parallel lines individually, separate from each other. Look at the horizontal ones in that transversal. Okay, look at the vertical ones in the transversal, and again, look at the matching angles there. Okay, example 2. Okay, this one here, we've got this parallel line here, and then I'm going to concentrate on this transversal. The first thing I looked at was I saw this 2x, and I looked at its vertical angle over here, so this is also 2x. So I knew those were congruent. We also know that this guy right here is 2x. Okay, so one thing you can see is that this 5x plus 40 and this 2x together, they're making this linear pair. So right here, this is a linear pair. So this 5x plus 40, which is this angle, okay, plus the 2x, that equals to 180 because it's a linear pair. Okay, also you can see this 5x plus 40 right here and this 2x, they're same side interior angles, so again, they also add up to 180. So basically what I did was I saw that these two are a linear pair, and so I added them together, equal to 180, and I solved this for x, so then x is 20. Also, you can tell right here, this angle is 5x plus 40 because it's congruent to this one here because they're alternate exterior angles. So that's another way you can kind of look at that. All right, number 3, it says angles 3 and 10. So here's 3 and there's 10. Okay, they are going to be same side interior because they're between these lines. Okay, and then they're going along this transversal, so they are same side interior. also known as consecutive interior. Okay. Number 4, it says 9 and 13. So here's 9, and there's 13. 9 is in the same spot as 13, so they're corresponding angles. Question 5, it says, given that P is parallel to Q, so now we've got the upright ones parallel, if the measure of angle 3 is 75, find the measure of angle 5. Well, 3 is right here, 5 is right there. They're alternate interior, so they're going to be congruent. So if angle 3 is 75, angle 5 is also 75. Question 6, if P is parallel to Q and the measure of angle 10 is 3x minus 7 and the measure of angle 13 is 4x minus 9, well, I see 10 is right here and 13 is right here. They're same side interior angles, so they should add up to equal 180. So that's what I have right here. The 3x minus 7 plus this 4x minus 9 equals 180. And so then when you solve that, you get x is 28. Okay, question 6. Or 7, I'm sorry. This is find the value of x. Okay, important thing to point out here on this one. Your parallel lines are right here. Okay, these are your parallel lines. Now you can see we have 2 transversals. I'm going to highlight one in a golden color. And then we'll do one in this turquoise. Okay. Now we have 3 different angles here, and we're only going to be able to make a relationship between 2 of them that will actually help us to solve this. Okay. The important thing to understand here is that we only know that these blue lines, the ones kind of going up and down, we only know that those are parallel. We don't know if the yellow one is parallel to this blue one down here. So what you need to understand, you need to think of these 2, the ones running horizontally, as your transversals. Okay? So whatever is on this yellow transversal, you can make relationships with. Whatever's on the blue transversal, you can make relationships with. If you look on the blue transversal, we only have this one expression there, and I don't have anything over here. So I can't really make a useful relationship. So we're not going to use this 3x plus 43. However, I look along the yellow transversal. I see that I run into this x squared minus 5x and also this 2x plus 50. Since they're along the same transversal, I can make a useful relationship with them. And if you look at my colors here, this one is red and the other one here is green. So that means that they are same side interior, so they should add up to 180. So that's what I've written right here. I do the x squared minus 5x plus this 2x plus 50 equals 180. And then all I do is combine like terms, and I get x squared minus 3x plus 50 is equal to 180. And then this is a quadratic. I have to set it equal to 0 to solve it. So I subtract 180 from both sides. Get x squared minus 3x minus 130 equals 0. And in order to factor this, we have to take c, so negative 130, and we multiply by a, which is 1. So 1 times negative 130, that's negative 130. And then we're going to find factors of a times c, this negative 130, and they have to add up to negative 3. So right off the top of my head, I say, oh, okay, if I do negative 13 times 10, I get negative 130. And if I do negative 13 plus 10, then I get negative 3. So that works. So my factors are negative 13 and 10. So we do x minus 13, x plus 10. You set each of these equal to 0 and solve for x. So you get x is either 13 or negative 10. That's it. All right, question 8. It says draw two parallel lines A and B cut by transversal C. Okay, so there's A and B, transversal C. It says mark angle 1 and angle 2 as corresponding angles. Okay, and it doesn't matter where you put angle 1, just as long as you match angle 2 as a corresponding angle. So here is angle 1. Angle 2's got to be the corresponding angle. So there's angle 2. And then it says mark angle 2 as an alternate interior angle to angle 3. So there's 2, so its alternate interior has got to be right here, angle 3. And it says mark angle 3 as corresponding to angle 4. So angle 3 is like on the bottom, so angle 4 has got to be on the bottom. And now they're asking what type of angles are 1 and 4. And if you look at them, they're on opposite sides of this transversal, and they're both outside, so they're alternate exterior angles. Question 9. It says a city council wants to build train tracks through the city's business district. A city planner shows the council a map for the proposed train track. State Avenue is parallel to Madison Avenue, and Market Street is parallel to Washington Street. What is the measure of angle HGL? Okay, HGL is this angle right here. So I put a question mark because that's what we need to find. So first thing I did was I saw, oh, okay, this train track here and this one, they're making an X, so this is a vertical angle, so I put a question mark there. I'm not sure if that, I wasn't sure if that was going to help me or anything right away, but it was something that I noticed, so I wrote it down. I also could see that I've got a pair of vertical angles going right here. This 34 is also over here. So these two sections are 34. So I said, okay, that doesn't really help me too much. But then I noticed they gave me this 117 right here. This 117 is made by this line here and this line there. I notice, oh, this is one of my parallel lines. So I go over here and I find the other line that's parallel to it. And I continue that transversal. And so I see, okay, if this is 117, well, its corresponding angle also has to be 117. So that's why I marked this 117 there. And then if you look carefully, we can see we have this 117 and this 34, and it's making this straight line right here with the railroad track. So if I start right here at the railroad track and I go all the way back to the railroad track, that's going to make 180. So I have this 117 and the 34 and then question mark, and they're supposed to add up to 180 because they're making that straight line. They're all supplementary. So that's what I did. 180 is equal to 117 plus 34 plus the question mark, and then we just solve it for the question mark, and it gets us 29. Okay, question 10. It says find the values of x, y, and z in the figure to the right. Okay, so first thing, I see that my 3 lines are all parallel. So since I have 3 parallel lines and it's cut by 1 transversal, I only need 2 colors. So I just started here and I did the oranges and I did the greens. And it doesn't matter how many parallel lines you have, as long as they're all parallel to each other, you just keep going with the pattern. So what I found was that right away, Z and this 142, those are equal, so I didn't even have to work. I knew that Z was 142. Now, the X and the Y, I had to do a little bit of work to get. So first thing I saw was that this 2Y plus 8 and the 142, they were creating a linear pair. So I said 2y plus 8 plus 142 equals 180 over here. And then I solve this, and so I get y is equal to 15. Okay, I started with that because I said I had to be able to find a way to get just y. And I noticed it was right next to that 142. I know they make 180, so that's why I started there. Now, I also saw, okay, this 4x plus 6 and this 2y plus 8, they're same side interior angles. So if I add them, they should be equal to 180. So instead of, making a complicated equation where I had the x and the y, I just took the fact that I already knew what y was and I plugged it into this angle. And then I found the measure of it. So I did 2 times 15 plus 8, which gives me 38. And so now I know this 4x plus 6 and this 38 down here, those two have to add to 180. And so that's where I got this equation here. So 4x plus 6 plus 38 equals 180. And when you solve it, you get x equals 34. Okay. Questions 11 through 16, we're using this picture over here. Right away, I saw they said angle 1 is 131 degrees. And then I was glad that both sets of my lines were parallel to each other, because if you have two sets of parallel lines, you only need your two colors. So right away, I said, okay, 131, what's angle 2 have to be? 49, because 180 minus 131 is 49. So right away, I said, oh, okay, this angle 1 and angle 6, they're alternate interior angles, so they're congruent. Angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary because they're making this linear pair right here. So angle 2 is 49. Angle 5 is alternate interior to it, so angle 5 is also 49. And then I use corresponding angles. Angle 1 corresponds to angle 3, angle 2 with angle 4, angle 5 corresponds to 7, and 6 corresponds to 8. So it's just really using those relationships that we know about parallel lines and transversals to get us from point A to point B. Okay, question 17. It says find the value of x and find the measure of angle BEF. BEF. Over here, it accidentally says VST, just change it to BEF. So right away, I see these are corresponding angles, so I set them equal to each other, and I solve for x, which I got x is 11. And then once I know that x is 11, I need BEF. So it's this angle right here that we're trying to find. So I just plugged in 4 times 11 plus 19 gives you 63. Okay, question 18. It says find the value of x given that D is parallel to V. Okay, if I have these angles here, and you can go on ahead and color. Okay. So all the gray angles are congruent. So have this x plus 4 and this 2x minus 1. One is gray, one is not. So they should add up to 180. Solve this for x. You get x is 59. Okay, questions 19 through 22. Or 19 through 21, I'm sorry. First thing, angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Well, how do we know that angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent? What do we have? We have these parallel lines being cut by a transversal, and angle 1 and angle 2 are alternate interior angles. So since we know that these two lines here are parallel, and that's our transversal, we know that they're congruent by the alternate interior angles theorem. Okay, angle DAB is congruent to angle EBC. Okay, DAB. DAB. That's this whole angle right here. And then they want us to say that it's congruent to angle EBC. EBC is this angle right there. So here we would have our parallel lines cut by this transversal. And so what are these angles? Well, they're corresponding angles. And so since we know that the lines are parallel, it's the corresponding angles theorem. Okay, and then the next one, it says angle ADE, so ADE, this angle right here, plus the measure of angle BED, so that angle, have to add up to 180. Well, think about it. What kind of angles are these? They're same side interior angles. So by the same side interior angles postulate, we know that they add up to 180. Because we know again that our lines are parallel. Okay, and then 22, it says find x so that A is parallel to B. Well, right here, we're on this next picture. So here's A, and there's B. They're alternate exterior angles, so if they're going to be parallel lines, then they have to be congruent, so they have to be equal. So just set them equal, and you'll find that x is 18. Okay, 23. Find a pair of skew segments. Okay, skew means that they're not parallel and they're not intersecting, okay, and they're not perpendicular. So here's AD, and then I chose EF. So they're on different planes, they're separate, and then they're running in different directions, and they'll never ever cross. Okay, a pair of parallel segments. We want two that are running right next to each other that will never cross. So EF and BC is an example of that. A pair of perpendicular ones, things that are meeting at a right angle. Okay, for sure, we know AD and DE. We know that those are perpendicular because they got that right angle marked for us there. Another one could be EF and EB, okay, if they have that marked. Next one, a pair of perpendicular segments. Oh, we did that one. Okay, a pair of parallel planes, I'm sorry. So parallel planes. So since you see these markings here, this means those lines are parallel. That means the planes here that contain those lines, the front and then the back, those are parallel planes. So DEF and ABC are parallel. And then now we have the logic review. Okay, so the first one, it says, what is the inverse? Okay, the inverse is not P, then not Q. So you look at it. If Mike did his homework, then he will pass the test. So what's the opposite of that? Did not do the homework, won't pass the test. And the only one that matches that is D. Question 2 for the logic. It says, what's the contrapositive? That's negating and switching. So if the sum of two angles is 180, then the angles are supplementary. So you got to switch that and then negate it. So if two angles are not supplementary, then their sum is not 180. So which is the only one that says that? C. Okay, what is the converse? Okay, converse means to switch. Whenever you see that prefix con, that means to switch. So that's for the contrapositive and the converse. So it says, if it is Sunday, then I do not go to school. Just flip that around. If I don't go to school, then it is Sunday. So there we go, A. Question 4, assuming the conditional statement, if it is raining, then the ground will be wet. Assuming that's true, what type of statement is the ground is wet, so it must be raining? Okay, look, raining, ground will be wet. All they did was flip them, so that is the converse. Okay, 5 through 8, you've got the law of syllogism and the law of detachment. Remember, detachment, it's P, then Q, P, and then Q. This is detachment. And then for the law of syllogism, it's P, then Q, Q, then R, P, then R. So that's syllogism. And if your statements don't follow that order, then it's invalid. Okay, so 5, if points A, B, and C are collinear, there's P, then they lie on the same line, so that's Q. Statement 2, A, B, and C are collinear. So which one talked about collinear? Statement P. So this is P, and this is A, B, and C are on the same line. Okay, that matches Q, so it's following the order, so it's valid by the law of detachment. Okay, question 6. If you practice your geometry, then you will improve. So practicing is P, improving is Q. Jenny practices her geometry. That's P. Jenny's geometry grade improves. That's Q. So it follows the order that's supposed to. So it's valid by the law of detachment. Okay, question 7. If you are published, then you wrote a good article. Publishing is P. Writing the good article is Q. Kendra wrote a good article. That matches with Q. Then Kendra was published. That matches with P. So this one, it went Q, and then it went P, so it's not valid. Last one, if John passes the test, then he passes geometry. If John passes geometry, then he passes the 9th grade. If he passes the test, then he passes the 9th grade. So again, if you follow it, it goes P then Q, Q then R, and then P then R, which follows the exact order for syllogism. So it is valid by the law of syllogism. Okay, if you guys are still having trouble with some of the angle things that I would recommend for you to look at are looking on YouTube. Okay, you're already here watching my video. Look up solving systems with substitution. Okay, and then also look up factoring quadratics. And that should help you to deal with the x squareds, and then also when you have the x and the y's, the multiple variables. Okay, so just go ahead and make sure that you watch this, do all the problems. If you aren't sure, come back and look at my key. This is on Canvas. Look at my work and try to see where I went, and then where you could get to that same destination. Okay, so I'll see you guys in class, and good luck on the test. Bye.